Hey, what's up, YouTubers? This is Brian with Paradise Arcade Shop. I don't have any fancy videos. I'm posting this on my personal page, in part because I want to keep this away from a lot of the drama, or not drama, but the positivity that's going on around the Evo Impress. So for those of you who haven't seen, this is one of the first things I'm going to show you. We have the Evo Impress, which is an LED hitbox style controller. We can say hitbox style because we license this from Hitbox. We made a lot of these for Evo, and this is the story about what happened with them briefly with JLCPCB. So I can say that everybody has a lot of different experiences with JLCPCB. This is my experience. I would say that for a production style run, I would never use them again. My experience was absolutely terrible. For small prototypes, maybe they're good, maybe they're reliable because your risk is relatively low, but as I'll explain, we had just a disaster here. So for those of you who don't know, we did 4 different versions of this. So the top PCB were all the same, but what changed were the colors and then the colors of the traces. So those colors changed between blue, black, and then gold and silver. And so we placed all 4 orders. All 4 Gerber files were exactly the same. They were identical, yet 4 different teams started working on them. So I started getting similar questions, but not quite the same questions 4 times. And I responded to them asking if we could work together on, I asked my account representative, could she try and coordinate this, because I was getting similar answers over and over and over again. And then on top of that, the solutions that were being presented were completely different on the 4 PCBs. So the account representative was absolutely useless at coordinating that. I mean, beyond useless. And the only thing that worked was when I started getting these multiple questions sent to me, I started including everybody that was sending me the questions on the same CC list. And so when you respond, it will respond to their help or support or whatever it is. It doesn't respond to the representative engineer, or whatever they call them, sales engineer that sent you the letter. And there are tiers there. There's your account representative, there's a sales engineer, and then there's the engineers. And the sales engineers are your communication path to the engineers. And the sales engineers, when you just hit reply in an email, it replies to a general support or sales hub, and then they're supposed to find it. And so what I was doing was actually CCing each of the sales engineers, because I was getting emails from 4 different ones about the same things. And after 3 days of going back and forth, I got them to actually implement the same changes on all 4 systems. During this time, I asked questions like, can't we just do this to the standard? There is a footprint drawn for this part by the company that produces it. You are selling me that part. Can't we use that footprint? And I was told that the standards change, the engineering standards change depending on the engineer. Now let's be clear about that. Not that the preference of the engineers change, but that the engineering standards change based on the engineer. The whole point of standards is that they don't change, that they are the same from engineer to engineer. This was going on at a time that I was trying to process these relatively quickly, and it drove me absolutely crazy trying to tell them, can't you just implement the footprint, which was the footprint on the Gerber, that is the footprint the company provides for the part that you sold me. I have no idea why it took so much effort. Now, in the end, they worked. So the solution ended up being acceptable, but the process to get there was so convoluted. And at one point had 4 different email chains coming to me with 2 to 3 questions apiece. The other thing that happens with JLCPCB is they seem to have figured out that everybody in the US usually is in bed by around 1 or 2 in the morning. Now they open, I think it's at 9 or 10 o'clock my time, 9 or 10 p.m. They're in the office. Most of their questions and answers or their emails to you come after midnight. Now on the second day or third day of interacting with them, I asked, can you please respond quickly so I can answer instead of having to wait another 24 hours for you to write me and then me to write you back? And that did no good. So I started setting my alarm for the middle of the night so I could get up, answer the question, and actually get a feedback back and forth exchange. Which brings up the chat online. Their little live help thing, it's pointless. I was lied to multiple times. They just would make stuff up and answer a question with no idea what's going on. The other thing that you need to understand about JLCPCB is they give you an estimated production time. So if you're doing SMT production and board production, they give you an estimated time. If the board production is 3 days and the SMT production is 4 days, that doesn't mean it's 7 days to produce your product. That means that there could be a 2-week gap in the middle, a 1-day gap in the middle. They won't tell you which. They also, once the boards are done with SMT production and they need to get packaged, there is an indiscriminate or indeterminate amount of time for them to go back and get packaged, which was the other thing I learned. They basically said, well, we told you it would take you 4 days to make the product. We didn't tell you that we'd ship it out right away. So these products that were supposed to take between 7 and 12 days, depending on how many parts were in the order, to ship to me, most took between 2 and 3 weeks to get out the door. Some took a little bit longer, and it was just completely unacceptable. People making up stuff, telling me things, just kind of inventing answers for this. Finally, the biggest disappointment and the thing that really kind of, those things I was willing to deal with. This is kind of the interaction sometimes when you're trying to deal with overseas and getting stuff shipped. And there's some confusion, communication, working out kind of first-time interactions with people. We'd ordered a couple of prototypes of them. I hadn't done anything larger scale. And this wasn't huge. I mean, this wasn't a giant order, but it was a reasonably sized order. The final straw that broke the camel's back was we paid for extra packaging for the shipping for these orders so that the boards wouldn't get damaged. You can see the top PCB here. It needs to be clean. You know, the customer is going to see this. And so the first set of boards to come in were blue with silver. The blue with silver boards had a scratch right here in the solder mask that you can see is removed so that you can get the light through it. So the paradise inside was scratched. And this was on about half of the PCBs that came in. I got back to them and I said, this is unacceptable. We paid extra for packaging. You put a completely inadequate, they basically put 0.100 pins on the front and a foam piece about this thick on there. So you have 0.100 pins that are taller than the foam used to separate the boards, and then 2 boards sandwiched together with 0.100 pins facing each other. So it scratched the hell out of things. They could have either reversed the boards the other way. I mean, there's a number of ways to solve that problem. And in the other, let's see, it was about a third of the boards that we ordered. In the other 2/3 of the boards that were shipped in the other 3 orders for the other 3 color combinations, they packaged them all with 2 pieces of foam, which was more than adequate. And all of those boards came in with 0 defects. They look great. So I got back to them and I said, hey, you sent us half of these boards are unusable. I mean, we don't find them acceptable. Our customers won't find them acceptable. These are damaged and scratched. What can we do about repairing these or replacing them? And this turned into a drawn out, well, why don't we offer you a $10 gift certificate for that? Well, $10 wasn't even a percent of what we spent. And I said to them, that's completely unacceptable. They eventually got up to $100. And at that point, I told them either replace the boards, refund all the money for the boards that we lost, not all of them, just the ones we lost, or I have to dispute these. And now they are basically on PayPal, because I ended up having to dispute them. They're on PayPal telling PayPal that these are acceptable products and they don't understand why they're not acceptable, that I am basically refusing to use usable boards. They have tried to tell me that these boards were okay when, this is the best one, when they produced them, they were not scratched. Therefore, it is not their problem. And I mean, the kicker in all of this is I actually paid extra money to have them packaged carefully. Like, I didn't just get the regular packaging. Now, they told me typically they would just put paper between PCBs that have soldered headers on them, which for those of you who are ordering from them, even if you're ordering a prototype, that's a completely unacceptable way of shipping PCBs across the ocean. But they said that's their standard, 1 slip of paper, even if you've paid to have parts installed on them. So I paid extra, contacted them, told them the concerns, communicated the issues, communicated them with both the representative, my account representative, and the people on chat, as well as the sales engineers. And while they were able to do it on 2/3 of the orders, they didn't do it on 1/3 of them, and they insist that they've done everything right. So I'd really caution people against using them for large orders. I'd really caution you from using them for assembly. The assembly was okay. We had to fix a few things, nothing huge, just a few small things. And it wasn't on every board. It was somewhat acceptable. But, the complication and the difficulty of going through this was just terrible. We haven't had any of the same problems with PCBway, with PCBbuy, with all PCB. I mean, this really seems to be isolated to JLCPCB, and I feel like I'm being treated like you are lucky to be able to buy from us. Let us give you a coupon that isn't worth 1/10 of what you lost. And the irony of that is, if I'm telling them that I lost an enormous amount of money with them, and I'm upset about the quality of the products, yet their only solution is to offer me a coupon for more product, what am I supposed to do? Dig the hole deeper? All of this happened out of me. I told them you can either produce new ones, refund the money, or I have no choice but to take this to PayPal. So again, if you have questions, you can ask them. I'll be happy to try and answer them in the comments section below. But I would say, at all costs, if you're doing production, large-scale production, you need to avoid this company. The service, the quality, it's just been unacceptable. And, we all make mistakes. I'm a surgeon. Things happen, they go wrong. The measure of how you decide who to work with in life really should be on what quality they give you, as well as how they handle their mistakes. And I would say that the way JLC handles their mistakes indicates that they just don't stand behind their products, or their production or their quality. So if anybody has any questions, again, ask them. Happy to answer. Thank you. Sorry for the rant. I hope that was a good enough explanation.